All right. Hey, what up? It's Chris Roscoe. And today we're going to be building off the last video that I made, which was about how purpose is the antidote to depression and all that. So I gave you like a broad general idea of what purpose is. But now I want to bring it on down. I want to break it on down for you, bring it on down to home, and give you an idea of what the fuck I'm talking about and how you can actually start building that momentum that I talked about in the last video. And if you didn't watch the last video, this may not make any sense to you, so I encourage you to go back and watch it so you know what I'm talking about, unless you know, whatever. So I'm going to start telling you how you can build that momentum, because in the last video, we talked about purpose being this vehicle for exponential upward growth, right? Where you do the thing that makes you feel good, and then you feel good because you did it, and so you do it more, and it just, you gain momentum and you grow. And so how do you actually begin that process? That's what I'm about to cover. And the interesting thing to know about that is that you kind of have to be okay with failure in order to even begin. Because in order to figure out where you want to go, you have to use trial and error. Like, you have to get an idea of what you think you might like, give it a shot, see how it goes, and see if that works for you and if it doesn't. And like, I'll give you an example. So I'm a coach now. I teach people how to have confidence and find their purpose and live the life that's best for them and all that fucking cliche bullshit. But that's what I do. But that wasn't what I always did. You know, I used to work on music festivals. I started a company throwing parties at nightclubs. I originally wanted to be like a comparative religions professor. And so I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a long time. And I had to go through trial and error. I started studying philosophy in college, and I honestly didn't like college. I thought it was kind of stupid. So I left because I was like, that's not right for me. And then I started throwing parties at nightclubs, and I was like, hey, this is really cool, but I don't want to spend that much time. Like, I like throwing events. It's really fun for me, but I don't think about it enough to obsess over it enough to dedicate my life to it. But then when it came to coaching, it was like, oh, fuck. Like, I think about this literally all day, every day. I like helping people figure themselves out. I'm good at this. I can make money off of this. Like, this seems like if I were to devote my entire life to this, I think I'd be doing pretty damn good. And I'd be happy and I'd be fulfilled and I'd be able to make all the money I want. And so it was a process of trial and error. But even on a smaller level than that, you have to begin trying silly little things. Like everything. Like, I feel like I was able to come up with a sense of purpose early on because I've always valued doing what I want and being authentic and being who I really am. And I've always had this idea that if I just be myself, then everything will work out. And that's always been true. And because the backbone of purpose is authenticity, where we defined purpose in the last video as whatever it is you want to devote yourself to when you're being completely honest. So it starts with being honest about what you want now. Because one of the other common misconceptions about purpose is that one day this light bulb goes on and you know what the fuck you want to do for the rest of your life. And that may or may not be the case, but I wouldn't depend on it, and I wouldn't necessarily say that you failed if it doesn't happen that way. It can be, because we talked about it last time as momentum, it can be this like slow start thing. You know, because you might be at a place in your life right now where you have no fucking clue where to even start. And that's totally valid. So I want to give you an example of where you can start. Like, let's say you're one of those people who are like, damn, like I know my life could be better, and I know there's things I could be interested in, but I have no clue where to start. Let's say you feel that way. What's something that interests you? Even if you don't know what makes you happy, what's something you've always wanted to try? Have you always wanted to learn how to play guitar? Have you always wanted to ride a skateboard? These are just my interests. And what have you always wanted to do that's always had an interest to you? Or what have you always watched or liked watching other people do? What's something you think about frequently? What's something that's good for you? Something that makes you happy? You can start small, even if it doesn't look at all like it's anything that you could build a lifestyle off of. As long as you connect to that part of yourself that genuinely enjoys whatever it is you're doing, and you build on that enjoyment and you build on that feeling, as long as you're doing that, you're pretty much going in the right direction, and you can kind of bank on that. Because that's the whole thing about it, right? Is you attune yourself to figure out what it is you like, and you do what it is you like, and you're like, holy shit, I really like that. And then over enough time, you get to compare that with the feeling of doing something that you don't like and doing stuff that isn't really in line with your values and your interests and your authentic sense of self. And after enough time, you're like, okay, the inauthentic stuff that I don't like kind of sucks. So I'm only going to do that stuff as much as absolutely necessary. And then the stuff that I do like, I'm going to maximize that because it just feels good. And eventually you learn to value your own feelings, your own enjoyment of life more than, other people's opinions and obligations and bullshit responsibilities that don't ultimately add up to a whole lot. You get to value your own experience and your own enjoyment. And that's the momentum that we're talking about. So not only do you get momentum, but your momentum in comparing what you do like with what you don't grows as well. Because at this point in my life, I don't really do anything I don't want to do anymore. Just because I've done what I like so much that anything I don't want to do, it's like, I'm not going to feel good doing that. And then when I get home from doing that, I'm not going to feel good that I did a thing I didn't feel good about. So it's like, you know what? I'd rather face the rejection. I'd rather have someone call me an asshole or whatever the thing is, because that's better than doing shit I don't like. Now, that's not necessarily to say that I don't go out of my way to help people. It's not necessarily to say that I don't make time for people when I don't have time, but those are things that I choose to do because I want to, because that person is important to me and valuable to me. I don't do those things because I'm like, oh, they're going to not like me if I don't do this. It's like, no, I want to invest in this because it's important to me. And even if it's inconvenient, sometimes shit's inconvenient. So it's not being selfish. It's not listening to your whims and being impulsive or anything like that. It's not about being a dick. It's just really getting clear about what your values are and what feeds you versus what drains you, and getting really fucking clear about that and committing to it. So right fucking now, pull out a piece of paper, open up a Google Doc, whatever. Or if you're driving, just open up a thing in your head. Think about some things that you've always wanted to do. And I'll give you a really silly example. Like when I was a little kid, I was a big Ninja Turtles fan. I still am a big Ninja Turtles fan. I love the Ninja Turtles. And when I was a little kid, I used to take the little broom things, like the actual broom part, off of the big broom handles, and I would swing the fucking broom handle around like I was Donatello, and I would pretend like I was one of the Ninja Turtles, even though he's my least favorite turtle now. And then what I found out later was that was actually foreshadowing of the fact that I really like martial arts. And so I took Kung Fu for a few years. I took Capoeira. I took a few different things. And I found that I actually had this natural talent for martial arts. And I had this interest early on. So look back. Think about the things you really liked as a kid. Things that really made you happy, and see if you have any connection to those things anymore. If there's any interest for you there. If there's something that you've always wanted to develop. Just fucking give it a shot, because this isn't about nailing it. This isn't about finding the thing you want to devote your life to from the very beginning. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to follow a trail of breadcrumbs. It's to be like, wow, does this give me a feeling that's worth following? If it's a yes, then you follow it. If it's a no, then you don't. If it's a kind of, then you figure out what about it is worth following, and then you follow that, and then you disregard the rest. And next thing you know, you get better and better and better at that. It becomes unconscious, and that momentum that we talked about starts to take over, and next thing you know, your life is just fucking awesome. And I probably say this in every video, but I really mean this because this is my experience. Like I said, just a few years ago, I was goddamn miserable, and now multiple times a week, I'll just be like, how did my life get so good? How did this happen? My life was terrible a few years ago, and now I'm genuinely blown away at how cool my life is. It's incredible to me. So this momentum, and that's the thing, I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of status, I barely even have furniture in my house, but I'm happy as fuck. I live in a city that I like, in an apartment that I'm stoked on, that's cheap. I live with my best friend. I've oriented myself around my values and my genuine desires, and I've stood for them long enough to where I don't settle for anything less. And that's turned me into someone who can enjoy life on a capacity that I never knew, and that's what's possible for you. And so not only do you have to potentially face failure of okay, damn, I tried this thing and I didn't really like it. that doesn't mean you're fucked. It means you were willing to try. It means you were willing to go outside your comfort zone and do something that was uncomfortable for you, that was foreign to you, that was new to you, or whatever it was. And you learned something about yourself. You learned that even though you thought you were interested, you weren't. So you're like, okay, well, that feeling wasn't worth following. Let me think of some other stuff. Let me write some shit down. Let me brainstorm. Let me talk to people. Let me figure out what I can do in order to ultimately land on something that will be worthwhile for me to follow. And then you just go and go and go and go and go. And eventually learn how to tie it all together. Like me as a coach, I always felt conflicted because I'm like a sarcastic internet troll, but I'm also obsessed with philosophy and psychology, and I'm also a punk and a video game nerd. And all those things didn't really seem to fit together, but the more I got honest with myself and the more I found the value in all those things and how they could work together to lead me down the path that I wanted to go, suddenly I found it's like, oh, I can put all those things together and it can totally work and people can like it. And next thing you know, they do. And so just start that momentum. Think of the teeny tiniest little thing that you can do that may bring you some joy. And expand on that as much as you possibly can. See where that takes you and take notes on where that takes you. Like pay attention and see if you're getting closer to a thing or further from the thing. Like pay attention and course correct if you need to. That also helps to start with some kind of a vision. So I'm going to keep it sweet and simple. That's all I'm going to fucking tell you about this. I do have a course coming out on July 30th, where I'm going to be walking you through the whole process of starting to develop a path of genuine purpose, and how to maintain it and how to find yours and how to do all this and overcome your obstacles. I'm going to lay out the whole process and walk you through it with a whole group of people. So if you'd like to join this course, because it's a group course, it's going to be as cheap as I can possibly make it. It's going to be simple. It's going to be fun. And you're going to get tons of support. So if you really want to get going on this lifestyle and if you want to start making the most out of what you got, then send me a message. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, however the fuck you found this video. Send me a message and we'll get to work and we'll do some really cool shit. So I love you. Thanks for being here, and I will see you next time.